The New York Rangers are continuing their hot start to the season. They have their young superstar locked up long-term, and they have one of the best lines in the entire National Hockey League, and it's not who you think it is. We're going to break all of that down on this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel, so if you want to do yourself a favor, it's free. Hit that subscribe button, and you get to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. And what a fantastic win again against the Anaheim Ducks. Of course, that's a game on the schedule you would hope that they would win. You would expect them to win, but they did just that. And continuing their very hot start to the season, top of the Metropolitan Division. Not a bad place to be heading into November this week. So great start to the season for the New York Rangers. But let's get right into it. As I teased off the top, the Rangers have one of the best lines in hockey, not just in the National Hockey League, in hockey right now. Let's break it down. It's not even who you think it is. It's their third line. It's Cooley, Hedl, and Kakko. They're playing some phenomenal hockey right now. As you can see, this is from Money Puck, and I love using some of these charts. They really tell the story of not only games sometimes, but of, over certain sample sizes, how your team is playing, certain lines, defensemen, right? I love using some of these charts and being able to, dissect them. So from Money Puck, the top four lines by expected goals, minimum 50 minutes played together, 5-on-5. So again, keep that in mind. Some lines have just been put together, but anyway, obviously, some of the higher end lines in the league, like you got the Oilers up there as well, that super line, and still great company for the New York Rangers. Third line, you would expect maybe their second line, maybe their first line to be up there. No, the third line is clicking right now, playing fantastic. You got Cooley in there with the speed. I love the physicality he brings at times. Of course, has been fantastic over the last couple of years, dealing with injuries too, but he's been fantastic since he came into the league. And we're finally seeing some purpose for Kaapo Kakko. Yes, you'd like to see him play higher in the lineup, but if he can play with some purpose on the third line, there's no reason the Rangers should not keep this guy as a nice power forward there on the third line. When he plays like he can, he's pretty unstoppable. He's a pretty good player. So I'm happy that Kakko is still here, as we were talking about through the summer. And one thing I love so far this season, which Vince recognizes here, and I'll read it in just a second, is Laviolette recognizes that they're playing very well. So he's giving them more time on ice, and he did that again last night. And obviously they scored a goal, got on the board there, and they're very effective for the New York Rangers. So as Vince said, if you narrow the criteria to lines that have logged at least 70 minutes together so far this season, the Rangers' third line would be number one, right? So if you add just 20 more minutes time played together, because a lot of these lines are put together Hyman, Draisaitl, and McDavid, they don't normally play together, right? So if you up it a little bit more to some lines that have played almost the entire season together, the Rangers' third line would be number one in this criteria. So it's pretty impressive. They've been playing very well this season, and I wanted to give them love in this video specifically because we've been talking about Alexis Lafrenière for good reason, and we're going to talk about him later in the video. But we got to give these guys some love as well. Like, we got to give them their flowers. And Laviolette is recognizing their effectiveness and actually giving them more time on ice last night than the Rangers' quote-unquote first line, which we'll get to. I also want to give some love to the Rangers' quote-unquote second line. I like to think of them as the first line right now because they're putting in good work. The Rangers have two lines in the top 20 in the National Hockey League at least 50 minutes played together. So pretty impressive company for the New York Rangers, and it just speaks to what they've been doing so far this season. A great start to the season. As you can see there, the Lafrenière, Trocheck, and Panarin line, who I think is the Rangers' first line personally. I've been saying it on the channel. Obviously, if you look at daily face-off, or if you ask Laviolette, maybe Kreider's line is the first line, but I think these guys are the first line. They've been putting in very good works this season. Obviously, the Rangers got two in the top 20 in the league. So pretty fantastic. And when you look at the entire lineup, I mean, Panarin is running away with it again. He's having a fantastic year, similar to what he did last year. A lot of Rangers fans are looking for that. Obviously, you want that playoff success, but in terms of regular season, the Rangers are off to a hot start, and Panarin is head manning that. You got Lafrenière at a point-a-game player so far this season. He is taking that step. He is playing with that confidence that he stopped last year with, or I shouldn't say stopped, that he finished the year with in the playoffs last year. Obviously having 14 points in 16 games in the playoffs, pretty impressive. And he's starting the year off point-a-game player. And with the contract that he signed, if he's a point-a-game player in the NHL, That's a great contract still. Very, very good value. And I had a video on that just a couple days ago. And obviously Adam Fox putting in great work. Trocheck. Will Cooley has been, I wouldn't say a surprise. I think everybody knew that, he might have this in him, but he's been starting the season very well. I'm very impressed with his speed and physicality every time I watch him. He does some of the things you don't really notice really, really well. So wanted to give him a shout out there. And again, against the Anaheim Ducks, the margin of error and negativity in the game or negative impacts, it was so small last night. Great games from so many players, including Ryan Lindgren, statistically, analytically leading the way last night. So fantastic game for the New York Rangers, and pretty, defensively sound in a way. 2-1 win, pretty good. You want to limit your chances, and I think they did just that. So very minimal negative impacts on the game. Love to see that for the Rangers as well. And the Rangers' third line, before we move on to Lafrenière, the Rangers' third line are the only line in 60 minutes playing together who haven't given up a 5-on-5 goal against. That's the other thing. They're very effective this year defensively, right? Their expected goals are tops of the league, but at the same time, they're not allowing any goals. They literally have not allowed a goal. The only line in the National Hockey League playing 60 minutes together that have not done that. Pretty impressive to me. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And they're keeping the puck out of the net, and they're scoring goals. They're clicking together. So they continue to do that. Great option for the New York Rangers heading forward. Now let's touch on Alexis Lafrenière. Obviously on Friday, signs his big extension. I think it's a steal, a heist, if you will, for the New York Rangers. Absolutely fantastic contract. And when he was introduced in the starting lineup on Saturday night against the Anaheim Ducks, he received a big ovation. Love to see that, because obviously, as we'll get to in a second, it looks like he put the team over himself, instead of some other players around the league or even on the same team that look like they might not be doing the same thing. So this is exactly what Trocheck was saying. This is from Peter Baugh on Alexis Lafreniere's contract extension. I personally think he's doing good by the Rangers with this deal. I think most people can agree with that. It's a great value contract for the length of it as well. So fantastic stuff for Lafrenière. And the last thing I'll touch on before we get to a quote from a former Ranger on Lafrenière is his point pace per age. And I'll try saying that 10 times fast. But at 19 years old, 31 points, 20 years old, 33 points. The point here, and I don't have to read it all out, the point here is that he is continuously getting better. And again, this year in his 23-year-old season, which is pretty absurd, actually, by the way, because he is still so young. I think we forget. He's still a very young superstar in this league. 68 points on pace for it, at least, through 6 games this year. So lots of room to grow still. And I think he can be a point-a-game player in the NHL. So he's gotten better every year of his career. And I talked about it in our last video that, he had a tough start to his career, I think, obviously coming in with everything that was going on, all the noise, right? They had, shortened seasons. The seasons were being played during times that you normally wouldn't play. So tough start to his career, but he's certainly figured it out, and love to see that. And we'll get into one final quote here from former New York Ranger and obviously Anaheim Duck, Frank Vatrano. He said, "My first year here, he was on the third line, but he worked hard. He was finishing his hits, and he was hard to play against. Sometimes guys don't want to play that role early on in their career. His game just slowly progressed and progressed. He's created great chemistry with Brad and Trocheck, and now he's scoring goals and making plays. It's fun to watch him every night. It's nice to see a guy that earned it like that." And I think that was pretty well said by Frank Vatrano, their former New York Ranger. And Lafrenière has earned it, and now, he's playing with better skilled players and putting in really good work, and I think he's going to be a point-a-game player in the NHL. But let me know in the comments what you think of the Rangers' third line. We got to give them love because they've been playing very effectively so far this season and contributing to the Rangers' success so far this season. What do you think of Alexis Lafrenière? Great contract, and I think he's going to have, obviously, he's on pace for it, have a career year this year. So let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.